What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique, aka UniqueMazique, the hardest working man in sports and gaming, and this is another episode of At Me Bro Show. It is alive. It is live. It's alive. It's alive. And I apologize for the lack of sharing and distribution that was done with this. I should have been more proactive, letting everybody know that it was coming out there. How you doing today, Books?
I'm fantastic, B.
All right.
To be here in a live, intimate setting.
Yes.
Can we tell nobody?
Yes. In the face. I'm just, I'm glad I'm glad we're in here, man. And I suppose maybe we'll start getting some people trickle in a minute. Maybe if I had told people that, we would see a little bit more. Hey, we got program 25 in here. What's going on, man? I appreciate you coming through. You were first. I wish I had some, I wish from now on when we do live shows, maybe we need to have like something we could give somebody or something. 1,000 VC or something.
Program 25. He sound like a Russian bot. Is he a real person?
Man, no, hey, I'm trying to tell you, you know what? Program 25 would be like, that would be like a really dope pro-am name. Like, man, like just all you got to do is just input my program, and
I get 25.
I get 25 automatically.
Activated.
Yeah, automatically. What's up, 1989? Appreciate you coming through. Spencer Lane as well. All right, so we have a few things to discuss this particular episode. If you saw the title of the video, then you of course know what we are on. One of the things, man, that's really it's kind of a lot of it almost got pretty much resolved, so to speak, is the Russell Westbrook fan incident. Yeah. So by now, I'm quite sure if you're watching this show, I know you know what's going on with Russell Westbrook and what happened in Utah. He got into it with a fan. Russell Westbrook says that the man and his wife told him to get down on his knees like he's used to. And so I'm not sure what they were implying with that particular statement. Russell Westbrook said he thought that it might have been racial. I thought it might have had some sort of sexual connotation to it, whatever. Clearly it was inappropriate. The fans, for what it's worth, said that is not what he meant. He was saying something different. But there's a long history of abuse from fans in Utah to opposing players. Russell Westbrook being one, apparently it seems to be one of their favorite targets, right?
Yeah.
So Russell Westbrook came back at the fan, told him that he would F him up, and then said he would F his wife up too. Did not deny saying those things. And he was like, hey man, I was mad. They was, they talking crazy to me. So this is what it is. I don't think I should have to sit up and take this type of abuse all the time. So I want to know, well, first of all, let me say this. So what ended up happening was they reiterated the NBA's code of conduct for fans and players, because this already existed, right? But I think the issue maybe here was that it wasn't being enforced properly or whatever. So those fans were banned for life from attending Utah Jazz games, and Russell Westbrook got a $25,000 fine for saying he was going to F up the man and F up his wife. Mm-hmm. So I say to you, Mr. Blake, what is your take on that whole situation?
I think first of all, I think the NBA should generally be applauded. I thought they handled it well, with the exception of interviewing the man at the court.
Yeah,
that was not, but that wasn't the NBA necessarily. I'm going to put that on the individuals who are on the floor. It's not like the NBA has a policy of mediating these situations through the press. But the way everybody conducted themselves, they conducted their investigation. They found out what's what. We should say that the man's tweets, we've seen screen caps of his tweets. Obviously, we're not the FBI, so we can't verify that those were 100% valid, but it seems like, and he deleted his Twitter. He had a lot of, undebatably racially charged tweets, some aimed directly at Russell Westbrook. So his story is not very credible in terms of what he was saying. And the reports, the investigation was that he said what Westbrook said, not what he was claiming, and that the wife was involved as well. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think the one thing that we as human beings, like there's a human being factor that I think is most important than everything. If you've ever competed in anything, you know that you are emotionally exposed when you compete. It takes a lot of will to keep yourself behaving to a code of conduct when you're emotionally heightened like that. Like in the normal world, people will repeatedly, over and over, say stuff to the effect of, well, I was angry. You know, he was angry when he said that. She was emotional when she said that. And then we're supposed to understand we're human beings. Sometimes we say things that we don't mean in the heat of the moment. But for the athletes, some people want to completely remove that. And while I think that athletes shouldn't be yelling at fans directly, Westbrook has handled the situation better in the past when he just pointed at the guys, that famous clip of him just pointing at the guy and saying, you're going to let him get away with this? Security came and got him. You should do that every time. But as human beings, we need to understand that we're asking for something that's fairly extraordinary, right? We're asking you to get into an emotional competitive frenzy. And if we're going to do that, we can't then release the hounds on them when it comes to fans. The fans also have to hold up a human bargain and say, I'm going to behave like an adult. You can boo and behave like the crowd and be the home court advantage, but constantly trying to agitate these players, touching these players, you know, speaking about their families and stuff like that, that's not something you would do in every other scenario. And it doesn't suddenly become okay because you bought a ticket to watch somebody, you know, engage in a sport. That's ridiculous. I don't know at what point in life we decide that it's okay to not behave like a civil adult. And I think that's the number one thing that comes across to me is I think most people have come away from this feeling that way. I haven't seen too many people excuse the fans' actions. And I thought that was great. And the NBA investigated it properly. And that was pretty much that, you know. Russell didn't actually do anything. He just yelled back. Like they talked trash to him, he talked trash to them. That was basically it at the end of the day. I'm from New York. I mean, I've heard worse trash talk than that at a child's game. I'm sure you have too as a child.
As a matter of fact, I
have. Yeah, so overall, that was the main thing for me is I think as fans, it's like, you know, have your alcohol, have a good time, heckle within reason, but keep it about the game and keep it about being a home court advantage. Don't try to get personal with people. And for the entire duration of the game is what a lot of this is happening to. It's usually not one comment here or there. It's somebody dedicating their night to trying to get to these people. And that's not something we should ever excuse as a society, let alone as a league.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I feel that it's just we have really gone really far with this. You should be able to say what you want. The whole freedom of speech and freedom of expression, all of that kind of stuff is definitely good at its core. But there's also has to be some sort of there has to be some restraint, and there has to be some checks and balances about how that is, how those rights are exercised. Because if you exercising your freedom of speech and expression, it results in harassment to me, especially while I'm at work, then that cannot be okay. Because he can clearly say, hey, I have freedom of speech as a human right. And because I think he launched a GoFundMe or something today about fans' rights, right? So as a fan with rights, your ability or your privilege to exercise your freedom of speech, if that is then in turn making me feel, or you're legitimately harassing me because you're yelling, you know, racial epithets at me, or you're insulting my family, I don't care where you, I know that the NBA and professional sports is a different type of an animal, right? But I always like to remind myself and other people, that at the end of the day, this is a job. It's a job that these guys, most of them, thoroughly enjoy. It's a job that most of them are very, very highly compensated for, and that we can all make the argument to say, oh, well, athletes are probably overpaid because they don't save anybody's lives. We can say all of that kind of stuff, right? But at the end of the day, it's a job. And when you're at work, there's certain things that you should not ever have to deal with. Okay.
I mean, you shouldn't have to deal with it anywhere. Like, see,
I mean,
you mentioned freedom of speech.
What I'm saying is, like,
this is verbal abuse and harassment. That's not legal. Like,
I'm saying, like, I'm walking down the street, right?
Yeah.
And somebody starts yelling stuff at me, right? Now, technically, I can go but there's no organized or set up or structured authority unless I go and get a policeman or whatever and say this. But at work, there's a structure here, or should be. There's something in place here that says, hey, there are rules that govern what goes on here in the workplace. And in the workplace, it's just like if you go into a store, right? I don't care how much you hate Walmart. I don't care how much you hate whatever store you're in. If you just walk in and you just start yelling at the person that works there, cursing at them, talking about their family, talking about all this different kind of stuff, you can't. I don't care if you paid your money to come into the store. It doesn't matter. So for you to do that, that's just insane to begin with. Now,
the thing is, when you're part of the audience, you're paying a ticket, of course, but you're supposed to understand, and this goes for any kind of audience, same thing at a musical show. You're part of the show. Like, forget the rules and all of this and the laws and all of this stuff. There's an element of we're here together to have a good time. It's all part of it, right? The players, the refs, the coaches, the water boy, the crowd, right? The equipment folks, the people running the stuff upstairs, the confections people, like all of this stuff is part of the show. We all want this game to be here so that we can all enjoy it. So even if you heckle, you're playing a role. You're not actually supposed to go out there and harass people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and that's the thing. Like, people get so caught up in what's legal and what's, what people's rights are and all this stuff. It's like the laws are created in order for us to have a civilized society. So your personal civil code is what's important. So you're not supposed to take the law and be like, what can I get away with? That's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like, like, that part is already litigated. They have a code of conduct in the arena, and that's why you can't come to the games no more.
Right.
So just because this guy got out of pocket and it took Westbrook going at him for him to get caught, and his timeline to get investigated for him to get caught, and he thinks he's going to have a lawsuit that he's almost definitely going to lose, that's all side stuff. The main thing is, when you go to these games, if you're an adult, first and foremost, control yourself. Secondly, control whoever you bring. So, they had the thing with the kid, and Westbrook had to be surrogate parent because that kid was repeatedly touching and tapping Westbrook, and Westbrook didn't know who was touching him. So he turns around like, who is touching me? And he sees the kid, and he calms down. But he's like, why are you still tapping? Like, the first tap, he would have let the kid slide. You know what I'm saying? And the parent didn't intervene to be like, hey, don't touch the players.
I wish I would have brought Junior someplace and he just starts touching a random stranger. I'd be like, are you, Junior? Is something, did you fall on the way here on your head?
Right.
Why are you touching people? Like, but it's, people come from different places and they come from all different walks of life, and certain things go in some places or with some people that don't go with others. But I think it's generally pretty safe. You just don't start touching people. Like, it's crazy, but it's all different. Like, dude, it's crazy because I was on a plane coming back from New York at the draft, right? And so I stand up to get my bag. No, I didn't even have anything up there. I stood up there, and so I'm taller. So usually, and this has something to do with the whole touching thing. I'm about to pull something off of the top of the thing, and then all of a sudden, on behind me, I feel this. Now, generally that is the beginning of a confrontation, right? So I turn around real slow and I look, and this is itty bitty lady, and she's like, can you grab that bag up there? And I just looked at her like, where are you from?
Right.
Where that's how you start a conversation.
Oh, and it's not. It doesn't matter. Like in America, that's not okay. That's not how we conduct ourselves.
Yeah.
I had a similar thing happen. It was funny. It was pretty recent, and I normally on the street I don't get into anything with anybody. But I was paying for an item at Walgreens, and I was still paying, and the woman, like he was actually bringing it up, so I wasn't being slow. It was just still happening, and the woman put her stuff on the counter and got immediately next to me, so that I would have to like reach over her just to like put my card in the machine, and I'm like, you done lost your mind.
Right? Like, what's going on? Like,
I didn't say anything because it's not worth it. I could just, like you said, I have the option to just walk away and not make it more than what it is, and that's the option I always take. But yeah, unless somebody's stopping me from walking away, then we have a bigger problem. But some people, this is why I think when it comes to situations like the Westbrook situation, we need to first and foremost reinforce the common code of being a decent adult before we get into the rules and the laws and the policies and the fines and all this other stuff. Let's all agree that you don't act like that, and now talk about what we should do about it.
Yeah. Now, it's funny because I don't know what this was what was going on with this week and fan incidents with athletes, but Westbrook wasn't the only one that had a run-in with fans. Former UFC lightweight and featherweight champion Conor McGregor had a situation on Monday morning at 5 o'clock in the morning in Florida. He's apparently in Florida celebrating his mother's birthday or something. I'm not sure exactly, but he's also still serving his suspension for his part in the brawl that ensued after he lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov earlier this year. So essentially what happened is the fan apparently wanted to take a picture of Conor McGregor, and I guess he did it without his permission or whatever. Maybe McGregor asked him not to take the picture. McGregor then goes over, takes the guy's phone. The phone falls on the ground. McGregor stomps on the phone, picks the phone up, and withheld it from the person. He gets arrested for strong arm robbery and criminal mischief, which are both felonies.
Mm-hmm.
He posts $12,500 bail, gets out later on that day, posts a little Instagram message addressing it. And now the guy whose phone it was has a civil suit. He's going to try to run it. He's going to try to see if he can get McGregor to pay for one of his kids' college. So, and I understand. I ain't even mad at him, know, but so I'll go first about this, right?
You please do.
Conor McGregor has a self-control issue.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that's really what it boils down to. People can say whatever they want to say about how it gets, annoying for fans and for people to take pictures of famous people, and sometimes you just don't feel like being bothered. I understand that, and I totally understand how that works. But every single, and I said this talking to Andre Ward. Andre Ward and I had a conversation on Twitter, and we were talking about something similar to this. And I told him, I said, every single job there is in the world has a downside.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone. There is no job in the world that you like everything about everything that you do. Yeah. There's something that comes with it that you're not gonna like. And when you're famous and when you make all that money and everybody in the world knows you, part of that is going to be that you're going to be someplace sometime and somebody's going to want to talk to you, take a picture, record you in some sort of way that you don't feel like dealing with. You cannot get aggressive with them, take phones, snap. I don't care what goes on. This is what you cannot do. You especially can't do it less than a year after you attacked a bus, rendered some people injured, then even less time after you were involved in a brawl after you nearly got your face squeezed off, and you're already suspended right now. Conor, first of all, has a self-control issue. Second of all, he thinks he's above everything. I mean, my man really should have been from LA in the 90s, and he should have been from Compton because he absolutely thinks he's above the law. I'm just trying to tell you, my man really thinks that he is above everything. And nobody is making him ever truly be accountable.
Oh, of course. The UFC,
for what he does. For what
the UFC is culpable in this because I think they are enablers to Conor McGregor's behavior. He just keeps getting more money and more popularity the more he does. But I think there's another thing about this that I would like to bring up, specifically when it comes to martial artists, but in this case, mixed martial artists. For a long time, when mixed martial arts was getting popular, there were a lot of pure martial artists who were really poo-pooing.
Yes.
They were poo-pooing the whole, Red Bull affliction shirt, neck tattoo aspect of this, right? The new metal hip hop culture that MMA, was embodying. And it was because they were saying when you learn martial arts, you're not just learning to beat people up. Like this is what when you go to a real martial arts class, this is what you learn.
100%.
You're not learning how to fight. You're learning how to control yourself so that you don't have to fight. Part of it is when you become capable as a martial artist. And I did take martial arts for several years. I stopped when I was in my early 20s, but from about, I would say 9 years old to 22, I practiced consistently and I sparred a ton in high school. And it wasn't until I got into my early 20s that I realized it. Like once you become capable, you start to feel a responsibility of like, if I go into this differently, I'm not supposed to go in to a conflict with the same level of fight or flight that I would if I didn't spend all these years taking martial arts. That's like the whole point, is to gain a certain amount of self-discipline and self-control. Because as you're de-escalating a situation, you're like, hey, you don't want this to get worse than what it is. Let's all chill out. And I think it's an unfair stereotype to put onto MMA people, but it is an aspect of MMA culture. I met Randy Couture. He's an ultimate gentleman. That guy was like meeting Captain America. You hear some of the stuff like Robbie Lawler says, the guy is all class.
Yes.
We talked about Gustafsson. He has that kind of, you know what I'm saying? That mentality of a martial artist and stuff like that. Conor McGregor is the other side of it. He's what people accuse these guys of just being like cocaine, Vegas culture. We're a family show over here, so we're not going to get too into it, but y'all know what we're talking about. And making money, putting the prize in prize fighting. And Conor McGregor is in a lot of ways even more so than John Jones, at least in the current day, because John Jones has had some bad days. But today he is the representative for like the worst aspects of mixed martial arts, both in the cage and out of the cage, because he never fights anymore.
I 100% agree. And to add to that, I cover a Singapore-based martial arts promotion called One Championship. They're starting to gain some popularity now, a lot of popularity in North America. They just did the historic trade where they got Demetrius Johnson from the UFC and sent Ben Askren over to the UFC. They also signed Eddie Alvarez. They hired former UFC women's bantamweight champion Miesha Tate as a VP, and they also signed Sage Northcutt, right? And so they have a bunch of martial arts stars from a variety of countries throughout Asia and in some in South America. Well, I've had multiple conversations with their CEO, Chatri Sitjatong, and this is one of the things that he talks about. Some of the exact same things that you just mentioned, Books, is about the reason why they in Asia, the term mixed martial arts is actually kind of like a dirty term.
Yeah.
It's not something that's in a totally American term. Totally American. And when they hear it, they somewhat cringe.
Yeah.
Now, they like money, so just like everybody else. So they're accepting it a little bit more now as they attempt to break into the North American market.
Yeah.
But traditionally, mixed martial arts as a term is something that they don't particularly embrace. And a lot of it has to do with some of those exact same ideals that you pointed out. That whole, you know, tatted up from the top of the head to the feet, looking and with this uber aggression outside of the cage. And
yeah, here's what people are doing when they approach it the wrong way. If let's just say hypothetically you go to a temple, right, where you're supposed to train and learn martial arts. There's scrolls that teach you to punch and to kick, and then there's scrolls that teach you to breathe and how to treat your fellow human and how to grow. And what some mixed martial artists do is they take the scrolls that teach you to punch and to kick and they walk out to school. And there was a time that these traditional martial arts weren't taught. And this is one of the reasons. Yeah, there's xenophobia and politics that goes along with that in the ancient traditions. But one of the reasons is they were saying, you guys are just going to weaponize this and, you know, take all of the integrity out of it. And to learn martial arts, you have to learn the whole thing. You know, there's the Tai Chi where you learn about moving with the water and the wind. And there's the Tai Chi where you learn to use it as force and fire. You know what I'm saying? And you can't only take the scrolls about violence. You have to also take the scrolls about peace when you study these things. And yeah, I'm glad one championship still has that mentality, because in a certain sense, those ancient ideas are right. If you guys are going to walk around snatching cell phones out of people's hands because you know they can't beat you, then we shouldn't be letting you learn martial arts, because it's a weapon. You know, and you're turning yourself into a weapon. And there comes responsibility with it. The same way that, you know, proper gun law should have you get a certain amount of training and be certain capable and responsibility so that you don't go around acting dumb and doing dumb things. Martial arts is the same version. It's just with your body, you know, and it does make you more dangerous and you have to be responsible for that. So my thing with Conor McGregor is just, honestly, as a former martial artist, I just don't appreciate how crude that is, you know, like that's disgusting. Because that's bullying. And honestly, I really can't stand bullies. It's different than if, like, you know, somebody sees Conor McGregor and they think to themselves, you can't do nothing to me, so I'm going to come up into your face cursing. You know, hit that dude with a shari, you can call it a day. But if it's a situation where you're initiating the violence, that's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, and what actually kind of is blowing me is that the amount of support that McGregor is getting from other martial artists, other mixed martial artists. Michael Bisping says that the dude who was pressing charges it calls him, you know, an effing penis, basically. And then Israel Adesanya, who I'm going to be honest, by the day, I become less of a fan of Israel Adesanya. Like, literally, Israel Adesanya is one of those dudes that if the less he talks, the better. Yeah. Because he's got this kind of a shtick to him. Like, he always wants to say something that is catchy. He always wants to deliver a promo. And he tries so hard at it, and he just ends up sounding stupid.
Because he's a nerd.
Yeah, he's really a nerd, and he's trying to be cool. And I'm like, dude, just kick people in the cage and just leave all of the other stuff out. Like,
Israel's young. Really, we gotta let him grow up. You know what I mean?
I mean,
he sounds like
he's not that young though.
That's true. I mean, he sounds like a kid.
Yeah, he really sounds like he's younger than he is, because he's 31.
Yeah,
and he sounds more like he's 20 or 19. And it's just like, dude, like, so he was like, you know, if I walked up on site and saw John Jones snorting a picogram or whatever it was he was doing, then yeah, if I tried to take a picture of him, absolutely, then John Jones should hop up and throw an elbow at that guy. Like, dude, go take a nap.
Yeah, that's silly.
Go and take a nap. Like,
taking a picture is not violence. Slapping the camera out somebody's hand is violence.
But you know what's so funny is that this is not purely an MMA thing. I recall a similar situation happening with Rajon Rondo and a actual cameraman or a media member. A guy was standing like over down the hall from Rajon Rondo, and he's filming him. And I guess Rondo asked him not to film him. Now they're in an NBA arena. Yeah. And he asked him not to film him. So the dude doesn't stop filming him. He keeps filming. Like, dude, look, whatever. He still's filming him. So Rondo says, whoever he's talking to, he tells the person to hold on. And you guys can probably find a video of this on YouTube. He walks over and says, man, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? That's the first problem. Because any grown man and starts off a sentence talking to me, tells me, what did I tell you? That's just not the right way to start the sentence. Just not the way I think it should go. Like, it more of, sir, could you please stop? Or man, please, I really don't. Maybe if the sentence started off that way, maybe it'd be a little bit more acceptable.
And I think there's a gray area here too, because we talked about everybody being part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
As a sports celebrity, there's your privacy and your personal space, but there's also the fact that you profit from people taking pictures of you and putting them on the internet. Mm-hmm. Like, even though it might happen at inconvenient times where you don't like it, and I can agree, hey, let people eat with their family and blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is, the more we say your name, the more you get paid in some way or another.
Mm-hmm.
You're profiting from this. Yes. So you can't decide Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's all good. Take pictures of me. It's fine. That's just going to increase my endorsements and my paychecks. And then Saturday, I'm snatching the cell phone out your hand and throwing it at you. No, you have, even if I understand your privacy and your moment, but you have to have extra grace because you're benefiting from it.
You're benefiting from it. Like, and that's my whole point. You can't turn it on and off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's just, this is a 24/7 media coverage world in some way, shape, or form. And you cannot turn it off because you absolutely are not going to turn down any of the dollars that come from it.
100%.
So there's that. So let's, when we talking about turning it off, it definitely seems that the Lakers have turned off their efforts to make the postseason. They have instituted a minutes restriction.
I think arithmetic is turned off.
Well, sometimes you turn off the light because your mama told you to go to bed. Sometimes you turn off the light because you're sleepy. Either way, the lights is off. Either way, the lights off. So they have instituted a minutes restriction for LeBron, and they have sat Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball for the remainder of the season. It's so funny though, because right after that happened, the Lakers' first game was against my Bulls, and LeBron came out there looking like 06 LeBron. Like, it was hilarious.
Let me just say, they say they're putting him on a minutes restriction. I have not seen that yet, so I don't know how much stock I'm putting in.
Well, it's hard to say because I think one of the games was a blowout, so you couldn't really determine if was he on a minutes restriction or did he just not play because they were blowing him out.
Well, look, he got the most minutes in the game tonight, and he's averaging 37 minutes a game in the last 10. So I need to see this minutes restriction before I
he only played 22 minutes so far tonight.
Yeah, but they in the third quarter, that's the most anybody's played.
Well, Bullock's got him by one. Bullock's been out there for 1 minute.
Did you really just say that? Did you really just say that?
He got him by what? He got him. He's got it.
Yeah, they ain't resting that man yet.
Or maybe he sits for the whole rest of this third quarter and then plays like the last 6 minutes of the fourth or something like that.
Yeah, until he start doing that, that's fake news.
Yeah, because I don't know what he played against the Bulls. He played 33 minutes.
Yeah, and I think it's part of it is people who have said that LeBron James is going to be on a minutes restriction, but he sits himself down. He's one of those players, and until he sits himself down, he's not on the minutes restriction.
Yeah, honestly, man, I don't know, man. I say this all the time, and I so mean it. I so mean it. Somebody has to coach LeBron. You
can't coach him.
I think everybody just says that you can't, and people are afraid to actually
You're ignoring
try.
16 years of evidence. Here's why you can't. There's a specific reason. This is directly from NBA execs. This isn't me saying this, right? Even if you as a coach want to coach him, what will happen is ownership will undermine you. In addition to him being difficult to coach in the first place. Because when he gets on the floor, unless you pitch a fit and make it a toxic situation, he is going to listen to you and nod and do what he thinks is right. He is uncoachable because he's a genius. So this is one of his, I talk about Black Panther a lot. That Black Panther, I thought one of the brilliant things about the movie is that his strengths were his flaws. Right? Sometimes a hero needs a weakness completely separate from themselves. LeBron James, same thing. His strength is his basketball intelligence and the fact that he has great instincts and knows the right thing to do most of the time. his weakness is that because of that, he don't listen to nobody. He's not coachable. He has tried to undermine coaches in ways that other players, I've never seen a player shoulder check a coach until LeBron James. I've never seen that before. Not in his own team. You know, I saw Alonzo Mourning trying to stomp, Van Gundy into the nether realm, but that was the other team's coach. I've never seen a player shoulder check his own coach before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I've seen it. I just haven't seen it from a. I haven't seen it in this era of the social media, because, like I said before, Magic Johnson flat got Paul Westhead fired. He said, "Look here, that dude there with the hair, he got to go."
LeBron James has done that to almost every, not almost every, but he's done it to so many of his coaches that weren't his guys. And who are his guys? The only guy who was a great coach that coached him was Eric Spoelstra, because of the opposite situation. Because Pat Riley came down and said, "That's my guy. Y'all got to figure it out." And hold on, here's the thing. What did LeBron do? He got out of there for that reason. Because he couldn't do whatever he wanted.
I don't think
that's what the reports are. I'm telling you what the reports are. I'm not just making this up.
I don't think that's why. Nobody says who knows that. And see, those are the type of things that I say. The reports say this, the reports say that. As a person who literally creates these headlines, I'm telling you, you cannot just take those reports and repeat them back as fact.
Ignore multiple sources. Even Pat Riley talking about it. He says, "Yeah, I forgive LeBron now, but the part of the reason I was so mad is because I didn't see it coming." And the corresponding report, before those words came out of Pat Riley's mouth, the complimentary report was LeBron was secretly salty all that time because Pat Riley wouldn't let him do whatever he wanted to do.
See, I mean, that just sounds so non-official and so non-concrete. That sounds like somebody else's perception and opinion of how LeBron felt. And unless LeBron says, "You know what? I was frustrated.
But LeBron is passive
things that I want." So I'm not going to take somebody else's opinion on why LeBron did what he did with his life over. I mean, I'm not going to do that, because we're all.
LeBron never said why he left.
We're making an exception. Exactly. So I wouldn't go and say that he left because he couldn't do what he wanted to do, because LeBron never said that.
But the thing is, it would be one thing if it was one report coming out of Miami. This is from multiple. And the thing is, the people who say this
tell them to be misinformed. Dude, what ends up happening is,
but it's consistent with his behavior.
What ends up happening generally is somebody comes out with a report, and I see it happen all the time in boxing. I see it happen all the time in MMA. I see it happen all the time in every sport just about that I've ever covered. Someone comes out with a report who is respected. There are times that report is wrong. There are times when it's dead on. And what ends up happening is everybody piggybacks off of the first drop that comes from an official source. It does not make it true. It does not make it true. So, I mean, I'm not saying that that's not the reason why it didn't play a part, but I think personally, my assessment of the situation was that LeBron felt that he had unfinished business to do in Cleveland.
Oh, I'm sure that was part of it.
From a brand standpoint.
I'm sure that was part of it.
From a legacy standpoint. And also, his wife said she was homesick. Now, I think that would have more of an impact on me than me talking about some Eric Spoelstra won't let me do exactly what I want.
Well, again, I'm not talking about a hypothetical situation. I'm talking about the consistency of his behavior. Even if you look at situations where when he knows what to do, this is why for years he was called the biggest front runner in the game. Because when he was in Cleveland, when he was feeling himself, they was all taking pictures and blah, blah, blah. As soon as he was in a pressure situation, he would get different. He would get weird. He would get
absolutely.
quiet.
I see that when you see LeBron. I see LeBron is a horrible loser. He's a horrible loser.
It's not just lose. I'm talking about before he loses, though. Some of it is like after he lost. Some of it is before he loses. When he's in a situation where he doesn't feel like he's in control, he gets weird and passive aggressive.
See, I don't think it's necessarily about control. I think he feels like we're going to lose. So to me, that's the same as being a bad loser. When LeBron loses hope, when he loses faith in the team he has or the situation he's in, that's when he becomes the jerk. And that's what you see right now with him throwing people under the bus with the Lakers. That's what you saw with the way he acted at the end of the Cleveland thing. I've never, ever defended LeBron for the way he behaves in those situations because I think it's straight punkish. And I don't respect that about him. Nobody's perfect. He's still one of my favorite players, but that right there is straight.
But so here's the thing. So you admit that when he doesn't like a situation, he gets pouty and moody and he leaves town.
Right, but I'm saying,
and you're saying,
I'm not saying
a coach is going to come,
but no, don't circle
face.
it, don't link it together because it's not the same.
It is linked.
What I'm saying is, when he is in a situation that he doesn't like, I'm not saying that I'm not saying it. Well, I'm talking more from a competitive standpoint. When he feels that the team he's playing on right now, this team cannot win. We're not going to win with this group we got. When he gets to that place, that you can, it's just like the guy that you play with when you go play pickup basketball and the game's not over yet. Y'all playing the 32 and the score is 28-16. And in his mind, y'all already lost. So before the game is over, he looks over to the side and see who got next and say, hey man, can I run with you? The game ain't even over yet. And he's looking on the side talking about, can I run with you? I hate that, but that seems exactly like what LeBron would do.
I'm not saying that's not also part of it. What I'm saying is that when LeBron doesn't get his way, he turns into a bratty little bitch.
Yes.
Right? We all agree on that. So you're sitting here telling me.
No, I didn't say, I'm not saying, no, I won't say
let me finish.
His way. I'm not saying get his way. I'm saying what I'm talking about is when he thinks that he's going to lose.
Yeah, well, I think it's when he doesn't get his way. And what you're proposing is that a coach is going to tell this guy who, again, 8 finals in a row, can't knock him, right?
Right.
What you think doesn't matter. Run what I think. Your situation, which has never happened to LeBron ever before, you're saying, well, I think it can happen. I'm saying, you really think that all these basketball geniuses that have encountered this man didn't try that?
Well, see, I don't think that he's encountered a ton of basketball geniuses. That's the first thing. Secondly, I don't think that he's played for a lot of owners who will just say, I'm going to back the coach. And here's the problem, because there are so many weak back owners and so many weak back guys out there. There's nowhere else for it. Here's the one piece of leverage that people have or organizations have against LeBron. There's one NBA. Now, yeah, you're LeBron, but if you get to the point where you realize that everybody's not going to let you run their franchise, right? Everybody's not going to let you say, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. You only got 30 chances, bro. And I doubt you're willing to go through all 30 squads to find the one that's going to let you run it. The problem is ownership and these head coaches are not aligning and saying, look, dude, you are the greatest player in this world right now. You are absolutely the greatest player ever played, unless you're talking about the Lakers. You're definitively the greatest player to ever play in this organization. But you are still a player. And will we take your input? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, that final decision comes from that coach. If every team says that,
but every team not cooperating, because this is the problem.
That's my whole point.
You're saying that this is a complete fantasy scenario.
It's
because
not.
It is. Let me explain to you why it's a fantasy scenario. Because some teams would never ever have the success that they would have with LeBron James that they would have without LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? So, for instance, so you're saying all teams are going to agree to put LeBron James in check so that he behaves himself. And if I'm Charlotte Hornets,
LeBron.
Let me just finish. If I'm the Charlotte Hornets, I'm saying, do you know how much money I could get if I let Zion Williamson come here and do whatever he wants? I would make more money than I would ever possibly make. And Phoenix Suns, if I let LeBron James, he'd be 40 years old. If I let LeBron James come in here and decide what flavor the Gatorade is for everybody else, I'm gonna make more money than I made in the past 4 years.
There's a historical reference to show that it can be done. When Mike was in Chicago, Mike did not run it. Mike had a variety. Mike had a variety of things that he would have wanted the Bulls to do.
That's a long history.
It's a long history, but it's the
genie is out of the bottle.
But the genie's out of the bottle because you let him escape.
No, the genie's out of the bottle because the NBA's made a lot of money
But here's my point. Here's my point. The Bulls have not had a sellout since Mike left town, and we suck.
Mm-hmm. That's why the genie's not involved.
But what I'm saying is, we're talking about just money, it's proof you can still make money as an organization and run your organization and piss off your star.
No, that's not true for every team.
And the Bulls didn't even do Mike as well as Cleveland did LeBron.
That's not true for
They didn't even treat him as well.
Chicago, New York, LA, Chicago, New York, and LA could do whatever they want.
Oh, Chicago is we are not on that level. We get that proven to us every time free agency runs.
No, I'm
around.
talking about specifically your support. Your city supports your teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whatever you put on the court, the Bulls are going to be all right. That's what I'm saying. New York and LA have the benefit of being a draw because they're great cities.
So then why are they doing it in LA then?
Why are they doing what in LA?
Letting him coach the team.
Because they have no choice. That's what I'm telling you this whole time.
Do. You just said they have a choice. You're LA.
No, but LA is doing better with LeBron James. They shouldn't even be in the news right now. This time last year, they had the same record. They were in the same situation, and nobody cared what they was doing. They making more money just because he's sitting there doing whatever he feel like doing.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to turn this into a bash LeBron thing because LeBron is still one of my favorite players of all time. He absolutely is. But just because somebody's my favorite player don't mean that I can't see any faults.
Wait till he see the show, man. You ain't getting invited to the barbecue.
Hey, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I don't go to Brentwood no way.
To close that up, the Lakers rested. Who they resting? They ain't resting nobody until I see him rest. I'll believe it when I see it. But right now, no evidence of that. They a mess, and
they a hot mess.
I want, before we get off of LA, I just want to say the Brandon Ingram thing seems like he'll be fine, but his injury and Lonzo's injury, it makes it credible what we're hearing that they're definitely not going to get Anthony Davis. Now, I don't think they need Anthony Davis because they have cap space and they can get other players. Mm-hmm. They don't need Anthony Davis to be successful. In fact, we haven't seen Anthony Davis win anything. So I think there's, as productive as he is from a numbers standpoint, I think it's a little much. People are talking about him like he's a winner. And sometimes what works on paper doesn't work on the court in the highest level of competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really don't have any problem with that concept at all. Definitely. I still think that Anthony Davis has to prove that he can be a part of a winning team. But I do think that playing alongside LeBron is the ideal environment for him. To be honest, dropping him on a team as the beginning of it.
I think the ideal environment is him and Kyrie Irving, to be honest with you. I think him and Kyrie is one of the best pairings you could get.
I guess what I mean when I say that is, I mean, going someplace where there's already an established star, trying to build around Anthony Davis, to me, you got a fat chance to try to do better than what New Orleans has already done.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what they've done, and it hasn't produced anything.
Well, because there's an argument to be made that you can't win without a ball dominant star in this league. Mm-hmm. And that's what you build around. You build around the ball dominant star. You don't build around the highly productive complementary pieces around.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best. He's the best complementary piece in the world, is what he is.
Yeah,
but that's essentially still what he is, a complementary piece. You know, he's not taking the ball and creating for everybody else.
He's not Giannis.
Yeah, he's not. He's not. And you know what? That is so insane. Think about that. A lot of people would probably say Giannis, Anthony Davis, maybe about the same. Not even close. Not even close.
Mm-hmm. Giannis is a walking offensive system.
Yes, it's not even close. The impact on the game is not even close. Mm-hmm. You know, you can look at the numbers and go 28 and 17. I don't care if it's 40 and 20. If you look at the way the numbers come about, it's not even close. So, yeah, that's interesting. That is very interesting, because that actually should be a segment that we do is Anthony Davis is overrated.
Let's get into this for a second. We here. We only have 4 topics today. You know, since you're feeling spicy right now. Anthony Davis is overrated. Yo, tweet this out, y'all, because Mazique about to lose some friends over here. Okay, I think I'm of two minds with this. He's a young player. He's only 25. So players under 25 do not have the burden of having to win games for the most part. You just want to see them be productive.
Right.
And they did handle the Portland Trailblazers last year in the playoffs. So we can't say, and he's made the playoffs before, and they actually played Golden State well several years ago. So we can't say the guy, he's not DeMarcus Cousins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who has literally never done anything of note until like yesterday.
Yes. Right.
Having a good game against the Houston Rockets while on the Golden State Warriors is literally the best thing he's ever done as an NBA player. So
the most impacting for sure.
Yeah. So while that is the case, it could be argued that Rondo and Drew Holiday were a much bigger part of that victory over Portland than he was. Eyeball test watching that series. And then when you look at what players you would have as the best player on your team, you look at the best teams in the league, right? You got Steph and Durant. You got LeBron, you got Giannis, you got Harden, you got Chris Paul, you got Westbrook, you got Paul George, you got Kawhi and Leonard. And then we start to move a little bit more into the outer reaches. But even guys like Victor Oladipo and so on and so forth. All of these guys are people I'd rather have than Anthony Davis, healthy, in their prime, than Anthony Davis running a team because I know how to build around him.
Right.
I think the overrated part is not that he's worse than what he is, but I think people overvalue what he is.
I think that's the right word. I don't think that overrated is the right word. I think overvalued is the right word because, and it's not his fault. It's not that he's less than something that he should be, right? He's everything that he should be, except for maybe a little healthier. But he's everything he should be. Like, I don't think there's a part of his game that he hasn't maximized, right? I don't think it's like he doesn't have like a Shaq free throw issue. Right. He doesn't have this thing where he hasn't worked on an outside shot. He doesn't have a thing where he hasn't worked on footwork to have a back to the basket game. None of that, right? He's not out of shape physically. So he's able to move and have this elite level athleticism. But the problem is that what he does is not as valuable to an NBA team's success as perhaps a guy like Giannis.
No, he's like what Jamario Moon makes of himself as a my career player. Jamario Moon as a my career player is Anthony Davis. But the very DNA, the key words that you said there that I love was his game. His game is maximized, basically, right? Offense, defense, shooting, rebounding, free throws, right? Making plays, a decent passer, all that stuff. Yeah. Blocks, steals, great.
In the pick and roll.
Sure. But at the end of the day, you can get a lot of that production from two guys that you pay a lot less than. The job that we need is somebody to take this ball, make decisions, and create open shots. In fact, I think when compared directly against Giannis, I think you made a great point. Some people look at them as kind of like, 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. You look at some of these three-point shots that these people get on the Milwaukee Bucks from Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, guys literally have time to pump up their shoes first. Yeah. Like they catch that ball, line up the seams, and then shoot. That's how much defense he's drawn. I think he's the hands down MVP.
Yeah, it's not close to me.
I don't think it's close.
Harden went nuts, but no.
Fantastic season for Harden, and it's a shame. But Giannis, in terms of most valuable player, Giannis is the most valuable player because there's situations that he creates that nobody in the league is coming close to creating. It reminds me of the power forward, small forward version of Steph, where you just can't compare the fact that Steph crosses half court and the defense gets stretched to the breaking point.
Yeah, I would say the three guys that pop into my head that I've seen play live in terms of overall on the floor impact, I would say is Shaq is first, and then Giannis, and then Steph. And the reason why I put them ahead of Steph is because Steph's there are nights that Steph's shot might not fall. Mm-hmm. You know,
Yeah,
just
and when
because
I
of the
say
nature
Steph,
of
I
the game.
really mean regular season stuff. Because even though I think people have been a little bit unfair to Steph, they talk about like he completely falls apart in the playoffs.
Nah.
No,
He completely falls apart by his standards.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's usually still one of the best players. The thing
Absolutely.
is, during the regular season, Steph reaches peaks that have you debate his all-time status. And we haven't seen that in the playoffs yet, which is why I want Durant off that team ASAP. Because I want Steph to be in that situation and have to get 40 in order to win a game.
And you know, the funny thing is that we say this about Steph, right? But he's averaged over 28 a game in the postseason twice.
Yeah, but he averaged 32 in the regular season. That's what we're saying. That's like exactly what we're saying.
It's crazy. Like he's never shot less than like 38.6% from 3-point range in any postseason.
Again, that's worse than what he normally does by quite a bit.
But
he's the greatest shooter of all time.
He has 3 years over 40 in the postseason. It's crazy, but I know what you're saying because I see it. But it's really not very different. It's really not very different.
Well, it's very different by the standard of Steph is a nuclear weapon in the regular season. And he's like a low grade, not a low grade, but he's like a ballistic weapon in the playoffs. And he's still a great weapon, but he's not nuclear status to the level that he is in the regular season yet. And the thing is, with Kevin Durant on the team, he's not going to have to be.
Yeah, I think 16-17 is the exception. 16-17 is the exception. 16-17, he was actually better in the postseason than he was in the regular season. But that's the only year. And that doesn't align with what you usually see from great players. Great players are usually better in the postseason, like every postseason.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the problem. That's where it goes. It's like, you know, because I mean, if you look at Mike's stuff, I mean, Mike's stats in the postseason is just like, are you serious? Even and LeBron too. And most of his, like I would say all but like one postseason for LeBron.
Much credit to LeBron James for most of his career. He is a guy pacing himself, putting up numbers during the regular season, and gets in the postseason and does crazy stuff like average 40. And that's the thing. Steph during the regular season is sometimes debatably the best player in the league. Mm-hmm. He's pretty much never been the best player in the postseason.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, because 16-17 is the first year Durant won.
Durant was there, right? And that's where he was just basically coasting, like, we're gonna get you to fit in here. I'll do what I need to do. Blah, blah, blah.
You know, it's funny. Mike never averaged less than 29 points a game in the postseason, and that was he did that in his rookie year when he was 21 years old.
Mm-hmm. People forget, man. That's why people talk about, you know, like they act like the game is totally advancing. I think that's true for the role players. Mm-hmm. That's true for the coaching. That's true for the shooting. But the superstars, some of these people, y'all need to go back and look at how nuts these guys were. Like we said about Wilt, sometimes it's just like these guys were in a time machine playing against the people they played.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's really something. And then we always talk about like Mike's 3-point shooting. Why was he like so much better of a 3-point shooter in the postseason than he was in the regular season? It's like it's crazy. He was like much better in the postseason.
Well, that goes to why LeBron gets criticized, because so many of the people of his talent level, of which there aren't that many, the more you press them, the harder they got to defeat. And LeBron is the one guy that the more he's ahead, the harder he is to defeat. But the more you can press him, the better chance you have of winning. And that's, you know, that's just his uniqueness. I don't necessarily even hold it against him.
Yeah, he's a different kind of dude. He definitely is a different kind of dude. And, you know, it took him, he had to fight through some obstacles that Mike didn't have to fight through.
For sure.
To get to where he is. So I don't discount that. You know, so people talk about toughness and all that kind of stuff. Well, LeBron had to be tough way before Mike had to be tough. You know what I'm saying?
And
he had to
the
be
thing
tough,
is,
so.
and also LeBron has other talents that Michael doesn't have. Like LeBron as a creator, as a businessman, as an actor, as a philanthropist. Mike has done charities and stuff like that, but LeBron does charities that makes other people do charities.
And LeBron actually cares about the charities that he does.
Well, I want to say I wouldn't say Mike don't care. It's because I don't know. Like I'm not there.
That was a joke.
I know, but it's I think it is important to LeBron. I think it really is.
I think it
important.
is. I think it legitimately is.
Like you can hear him talk about these things, and you can see the passion that he has for genuinely trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
So I don't hold it against LeBron because people are different. Everybody's not going to be Mike.
And I don't hold it against Mike I kind of do, but I try not to hold it against.
I don't hold it against Mike because he's a psychopath. He's a killer, man.
He is a psychopath. He really is. And
nothing entertained me more than him being crazy on the basketball court.
He's a sports psychopath.
Yeah,
he absolutely is. And you got to be willing if that's what you're going to do. But speaking of people who are traditionally looked at as psychopaths, let's jump back to the UFC.
I like that one.
Let's talk about.
Let me get a like for that segue. People in the
chat. We got UFC Fight Night 147. I'm gonna tell you something that's bothering me, right? So every time the UFC signs another distribution deal or something to that effect, they start changing the way their events are, referenced, right?
Yeah.
So is it UFC on ESPN +4? Is it UFC on ESPN 2? Is it, or are we still doing the fight nights? I don't really know.
I had to go directly to the UFC website to find out what was happening when, because I don't even know how to search these events.
Yeah, it's just
except for like UFC 234, 235, 236. I don't even know how to search like their events anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, right? I don't know. So this next one, I'm gonna call it UFC Fight Night 147 because it would be UFC Fight Night 147. So UFC is in a place right now where a lot of what they're doing, the cards leading up to the next pay-per-view are like really for the hardcore, right? Because a lot of the people, you're not gonna
this card right here.
Yeah, it's like I'm a maniac, so I know like almost every single person on the card. Like there's like maybe it might be, I guess, maybe 3 people on here that I've never seen fight. And those people might actually be making their UFC debuts. So, I mean, and so usually if I haven't seen them fight, because literally everybody on the main card I've seen fight multiple times, right? But I'm insane. So that everybody's not going to be insane. So the card doesn't bother me. But when I look at a UFC card, I don't look at it from my standpoint because I know that I watch them all. And I take note of people who I think might turn into something, but I know that that's only like 10 to 15% of the fan base, right? And most people are not tuning in for Mike Grundy versus Nad Narimani. And, and that's actually the fight that opens up the card. And I know everybody just said, who? And so it goes that way. So I don't know. I'll point out some of the fights on here that I think that people might want to watch because it could turn out to be pretty cool if you just enjoy like a really good competitive mixed martial arts bout. The Danny Henry versus Dan Ige. Dan Ige is like allergic to bad fights. He just don't have bad fights. It ain't gonna happen. He's not gonna have a bad fight. And Danny Henry is also a scrapper he has some surprising power, and his submission game is insane. Both of those guys scrap. Also, this card is taking place in England and in London, actually at the O2 Arena. And it's something about the cards that happen in London. You get a bunch of scraps. So, yeah. And so there's also Tom Breese versus Ian Heinisch. I think that's a really interesting.
Can we talk about the main card? This hard. This
is good. This is informative is what this part is. This is how you find out about some people that you may not have known about. Like the Ian Heinisch story is really good. He started off on Dana White Tuesday Night Contender, but before that, the dude, he got caught up in a drug ring. He ended up living on the streets in Turkey for years. He got locked up in a Turkish prison. He found Christ, got out of jail, and years later started his MMA career. Like his story is insane. He's a really good fighter. The fight with him and Tom Breese is a good fight. So I'm just trying to, you gotta sometimes, if you're only interested in the people you know about, you don't learn nothing.
It ain't the people you learn about. They got 400 fighters in the UFC, man.
But like, Ian Heinisch has potential to go up. This is only I think his third UFC fight. So he's got potential. He definitely has potential. But
I'm gonna watch the card because I like watching stuff. But is there a story on this card? That's the main thing.
Well, I think that one is a story what I just named, because they've had some really interesting trash talk leading up to it. Tom Breese was at one time, he was a really highly thought of prospect, but he got hurt. So now you got a dude who's we're trying to decide or see if he's still a real prospect going up against a real legitimate prospect in Ian Heinisch. So I think it's a good fight. I feel like Joe Rogan or something right now, but it's a good fight. The Jack Marshman, they're going to the main card, the Jack Marsh and John Phillips fight. That is nothing but a brawl between two guys who have no chance to do much of anything. They just fight.
After the last card, I am not about watching two guys run in and just throw hands with no cares in the world. Like, sometimes it's fun to see that, but I'm definitely ready to see some martial arts again.
Well, that one there, that's just gonna be a fight. That's just gonna be a fight. Okay, this one's big. Volkan Oezdemir against Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes and Johnny Walker are the two best light heavyweight contenders that have not yet had a title shot.
Yeah.
Those are the two dudes who, if there is somebody in the light heavyweight division that can really give John Jones a fight, those are the two guys I'm wondering about. Dominic Reyes, I'm more sure about Dominic Reyes than I am about Johnny Walker, because Johnny Walker's knocking people out in 57 seconds in crowd.
Right, so you don't know what that is, yeah.
But Dominic Reyes doesn't have any weaknesses really that I've seen.
So do you think he can legitimately threaten John?
I think he definitely has the tool set. I got to see him beat Volkan Oezdemir and perhaps win another fight. But
you have him favored?
He's going to destroy Volkan Oezdemir. He's going to destroy Volkan Oezdemir. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be a statement. And he will be in position after the fight to stand up and do his post-fight interview and say, I want you next. But John's going to fight Thiago Santos next anyway. So that's pretty much already in the books.
Yeah.
Dominic Reyes probably will have to take another fight before that, because he's not going to sit that whole time. But if Dominic Reyes beats Volkan Oezdemir and John beats Santos, and then Reyes wins whoever he has to fight after that, which if it was Johnny Walker, Dominic Reyes, oh my God, everybody move out of my way, because this got to go down. So that would be an amazing light heavyweight fight. So that's a very important fight. This Leon Edwards Gunnar Nelson fight, I think it's only this high on the card because Leon Edwards is from England.
Yeah. I was curious about that.
I mean, he's a good fighter. He's a number 10 ranked guy. Gunnar Nelson's a really talented dude, ranked number 13. But I think Gunnar Nelson already came crashing into his ceiling. At one point we thought he was a future title guy at the welterweight division, but I think we know better than that now after a couple big losses. I don't think he's got it. I don't think Leon Edwards is like, he's nothing special. He's very technical. He's athletic. He's got good hands, but he's a very safe fighter. And he wins way too many decisions. And at this level, you got to at least be able to finish guys. And I just think he's way too safe. But the main event is Darren Till against Jorge Masvidal. And I think that this is a really interesting fight. Darren Till is ginormous. I worry about him still trying to make welterweight because he passed out.
That's been the main criticism that I've seen with him, is that he should be fighting
at middleweight. And
the cuts are hurting him, even though obviously he only really lost to Woodley. But they can still hurt your performance even if you win.
Then they hurt your body, period.
Right. What I was just gonna say is the criticism I heard about him is similar to what you said. Like, despite his record, that he's just doesn't have the it factor of a guy. Till.
Well,
he's just not special. That he just seems like a guy who's going to get to that #1 contender status and then lose handily to a really talented, champion.
Well, he lost to Woodley, so he already had his title shot and he lost.
Right.
But Till does.
And that's his fate.
Well,
do you think that's his fate?
Nah, I think Till absolutely has the it factor from a marketing standpoint, especially.
No, we just talking about in the octagon. You think he could beat Usman?
I think it's a great fight.
Okay.
I think it's a great fight because Usman doesn't have the punching power that Ty has, that Woodley has.
Right.
So, and we all know styles make fights. So anybody who thinks that just because Usman beat Woodley, then that means that Usman would beat everybody that Woodley beats, you don't understand fighting, because that's not how it works. Right. So it's about styles, and you never know who's this other person's kryptonite. Right.
Do you think he beats Colby Covington?
Who? Darren Till?
Yeah.
I think he probably beats Kobe. Kobe is a tough situation because Kobe and Kamaru Usman fight almost exactly the same. So it's insane. It's hilarious how much they hate each other, right? Because their styles are almost identical, right? They pressure. They both have gas tanks for days. Usman's a little bit more athletic and a little longer, but they wear you down. They pound on you, beat you, pound on you, right? Neither of them are big time strikers, but they wear you down. So when they fight, it's going to be really hilarious to see who really truly does have the best gas tank. It might come down to who's the least emotional because they hate each other. So, but Till beating Covington, I haven't seen anybody pressure Darren Till in the way that Colby Covington or Usman will pressure him. So if you're just trying to stand there and strike when Darren Till, you have a shot, even though that's playing into his hands. But if you can crack, like Woodley could crack, then we see he can be got if you can catch him, right, with a big power shot. But that's not something that Covington and Usman bring to the table. So they would probably be banking on the fact that he won't have a gas tank after that big cut. And that could be ultimately be
which is the other thing, 5 rounds. If you're in the 5-round group, that is what it is. But man, it's a hardcore card. Like I said, I'm gonna watch it. I watched the last one. I enjoy UFC no matter what. But from let's just face it, this ain't unless the performances just overcome the names and everything. This ain't the one.
Yeah, it's like it's funny though, because like for me, like I can talk UFC. It could be a card like this, and I can talk about it like the same way I talk about a John Jones card. I can because I get into all of the different matchups in that way. And I do think that discussing and figuring out what in the world is going to be made of the UFC welterweight division is really pretty fascinating to me, because I don't even know what else.
You know what it is for me? The reason I love mixed martial arts is I love seeing martial arts excellence. So when I see, these guys who have big holes in their game, it's not as interesting to me. Like I enjoy a good performance, and I enjoy, like you said, if guys have potential and they're growing, that's interesting. But when guys kind of hit that cap and it's like, they're never going to be whatever, they're never going to close that hole in their game, they're just going to be a very good UFC fighter, or they're never going to be a very good UFC fighter. Watching those guys kind of, wrestle and duke it out, it's kind of like, it's interesting and it's fun, but it's definitely not the same as watching the best in the world.
Well, I think if you're looking for a high level, truly high level competition, T.O. Masvidal, you're not going to get much more skilled than those two guys, because Masvidal might be amongst the top 5 to 7 fighters in UFC history to never fight for a title, or to not have fought for a title yet. The dude has phenomenal boxing and phenomenal Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Just phenomenal. So it's weird. His problem is he has too many decisions, though. That's his problem. And when you're the decision guy, it's only a matter, or girl, it's only a matter of time before some of them start not going your way. And then now that's a L. So it is what it is. All right, so let's switch gears, and we're gonna jump into Ask Us, Bro. And we got some questions to go through, and we got actually a couple holdovers from last week because we kind of ran over a little bit last week, so we had to kind of pump the brakes.
We let the chat get it, right? So if the chat, if y'all in there, get y'all questions in, we might.
Yeah, we let them go hard last time. So let's try to jump into the questions this week. I got one from John Diamond. J Digamus is his Twitter handle. He says
that's an awesome Twitter handle.
I do think it's pretty cool. He's almost as cool as me, but still
he's not as unique.
No, he's not quite as unique. But how can I be weak? I'm rather unique.
Oh,
yeah. You know that. You know that. AZ. Baby.
I apologize.
I can't take credit for that. That's AZ. It's one of my favorite rappers. One of the most underrated rappers there is. AZ, Anthony Cruz, The Firm. Y'all get it. All right. Anyway, is David Robinson underrated?
No. I don't think he's underrated.
I don't think so either.
You and I watched a lot of basketball during the David Robinson era.
I watched a lot of David Robinson.
And I think David Robinson is, on the one hand, a timeless athlete.
Yes.
On the other hand, that's not great because he's always a guy who would run and jump and block shots, and that's great. But that's his game. In fact, he'd be great in today's game. He'd probably be on a championship team in today's game.
Phenomenal in today's game.
Yeah, absolutely. Be totally excellent. But, when you talk about big men at the peak of their game, he's not a guy that you could just give the ball and get buckets from. So, and I think
I don't know if I agree with that.
Not to the level of Shaq and Hakeem and DeMarcus Cousins and like Ewing. I just don't think he has the post-up game that those guys have.
No, man. I don't know.
If you think he has their post-up game in addition to his athleticism and shot blocking, then he's better than them. And he's clearly not. That's why he's not better than them.
See, I think that I don't think the question is he better than them? They say is he overrated? Is he underrated?
Well, but he's rated below those guys, right?
I think he's rated definitely below Hakeem Olajuwon, but I don't know that he's rated below anybody else except for
Shaq.
Yeah, I think Shaq, Chamberlain, Jabbar, and Olajuwon and Russell are the only people who go ahead of David Robinson in most people's minds.
I've always personally liked Patrick Ewing over David Robinson.
But I think that is definitely a common debate there because they are contemporaries. But honestly, I happen to like Patrick Ewing more. Like I was more of a fan of Patrick Ewing. But I think I would probably take David Robinson.
I would take Patrick Ewing in the post-up era over David Robinson. I would probably take David Robinson now over Patrick Ewing. But it depends because Patrick Ewing, this is a hypothetical discussion because Patrick Ewing adapted his game to what was required at that time. He came out as more of a defensive guy. And if he came out in today's game, he would probably lean into those skills and he was a better shooter. So, he might be better in today's game because he'd give you the defense and the shooting.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that I hope that's Jesus calling.
Let me get this because this is actually somebody left their phone here. Let me go get this real quick.
Okay. I'm gonna carry this on by myself. So I'm gonna have a conversation with myself. So Brian, number one, why would you take David Robinson over Patrick Ewing? Well, Brian, number two, I would take David Robinson over Patrick Ewing because I think that David Robinson is an elite athlete. I think at his peak, he was a better shot blocker. He also, if you look back at his career, he led the league in scoring one year, 29.8 a game, had a little bit more range on the jump shot. If you actually pay attention, he actually, one year he shot like 34% or knocked down 34% of his threes. Of course, it wasn't shooting a ton of threes like he's Steph Curry, but he definitely had that. So I think that I liked David Robinson better. I mean, Patrick Ewing better than Dave because Dave always kind of had like this unapproachable kind of an aura to him, right? And that was a bit of a turnoff for me. I dug Patrick Ewing, big, tall, monstrous looking dude with two knee pads. I'm not out here trying to look cute. because I couldn't even if I tried. I'm just out here. I'm balling. And that appealed to me a little bit more than David Robinson, more perfect type of a whole everything. Like his whole everything was like perfect. That, I like a little dirt on some stuff every once in a while. So I liked Patrick Ewing better. But if you ask me purely on a basketball standpoint, I would have to go with David Robinson. That's just me. So I'm gonna start talking to people in the chat as well. So Nam just laughed. I don't know if he was laughing at me or for me or whatever. Real 2K Insider said Brooks is literally the only person on the planet who would take Ewing over Robinson. That's not true. Patrick Ewing's mama would take him over David Robinson, and I know that for a fact. He said Robinson was Dwight Howard with post moves. Yeah, I don't know if he's quite as powerful as Dwight Howard, but definitely similar in some ways in terms of the athleticism and the length. And Dave is a legit 7 feet.
Yeah, so, Dave, Dwight Howard, some people say he's like 6'9".
Yeah, Dave's a legit 7 feet. So I don't know. I like Dave a little bit more as a player than Patrick Ewing, but I love Patrick. Just like, dude, I had a Patrick Ewing jersey. And I was a little bitty guy at one point. Like I sprouted up. I used to be like the shortest dude in the class, right? Mm-hmm. But I had a Patrick Ewing jersey, and I would go baseline, and I would shoot turnaround fadeaways, and every time I would shoot it, I'd go Ewing. And I was like 11 years old, and I'm shooting Ewing, but not 11, more like 15. I'm like Ewing. Is shooting the fadeaway. I never liked David Robinson because I used to hate the Spurs, with a passion. I hated the Spurs. But like I tell you, when I evaluate somebody, I completely remove how I feel about the person. Mm-hmm. Because Karl Malone is probably my least favorite player of all time, just overall. But I am not going to sit here and tell you that Karl Malone wasn't great. Mm-hmm. That's just insane. I'm not going to do that. So it just is what it is. Somebody's going to ask me, why is Karl Malone your least favorite player? Maybe we'll get into that at another time. Actually, it's funny because my son just asked me that question. I had to explain it to him, even though I think I had told him already. They don't listen. All right, the next question comes from Michael Rigsby Jr., who is Mr. 1989. He says, why are fans blinded by irrelevant playoff appearances? As a Clippers fan, I'm not looking forward to getting swept by the Golden State Warriors in the first round and losing our lottery pick. We are the definition of NBA purgatory the past few seasons. Honestly, my answer to that, Mike, is that there's a lot of dumb fans.
Oh, man.
I'm just being honest with you. There's a lot of fans that are so caught up in their now emotions that they don't see the big picture of things, right? So they're programmed to root for their team when their team's on the television. Their Bulls are playing, we gotta win. Not recognizing that if you win today, you lose tomorrow and you lose for the rest of the year or the rest of the next 3 to 4 years. So the dynamic of, you know what? Here's the thing. When wins start counting towards draft points and start leading to having a higher draft, a higher spot in the draft, that's when I'll root for my team no matter what. When wins equate to something that helps your team in the future, moving forward.
This is why I disagree with you vehemently.
No, my God. How in the world are you going to disagree with that, knowing the way the NBA is set up?
The number one criticism for the Denver Nuggets and why people don't think they'll go far is because they have no playoff experience.
Oh, but, okay. This is different, but I'll explain there's a little bit in the middle of it. There's some gray area there. I'll explain that after you finish.
Okay. So when you talk about making the playoffs, it depends on what direction your team is going.
Exactly.
I think a team with young players that will benefit even from a first round exit, right. I would prefer them to have that first round exit before we're expected to make the finals.
right?
Rather than having to like being like Philly and having a loss against a team that you probably shouldn't have simply because inexperience is going to cost you.
Yes. No, I see. Here's the
And
difference.
hold on, let me finish. In the case with the Clippers, not only do they have a bunch of players just now coming into their own, and they're not. It's not like if they didn't make the playoffs, they'd get the number. They don't really have a chance to get Zion Williamson, right? So, or you know, Ja Morant, who they
RJ Barrett
or RJ Barrett, right? Or Rui. So, you know, their lottery pick is not capital letters lottery pick; it's lowercase letters lottery. And the thing is, they're planning to sign big free agents. So, in a certain sense, the most valuable thing for them is playoff experience and having the players that they will retain be as good as they can possibly be when they get their free agents. Remember, Jerry West is back there. Never underestimate Jerry West. If he think, and also the owner, when you look at that owner talking about, no, man, we want to win. We want to win every game. That's also about building a culture. Tank culture is fine when you're terrible. Which as Bulls and Knicks fans, and Knicks fans, we can tell y'all all about.
Hey, slap your kids. Leave mine alone.
But the Clippers are a team with a great coach. Right now, great ownership, great general management, decent talent, young and veteran, and cap space. They want to get into the playoffs and see what they got, give these guys some experience so that when they add more top-tier talent, they're adding in better surrounding pieces.
Well, okay, so here's my thing. Obviously, I agree with that to a degree, right? Like,
you can say books, you're right. That's short.
No, that's actually not it at all. So what it is I when you the question I was answering, and I don't know that I necessarily agree with your assessment of where the Clippers are, because I know that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a nice looking young player.
Yeah.
But I don't know that the Clippers have their guy on the team as of yet, right? So if you don't already have your guy on the team, I don't know that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander going to the playoffs and getting swept by the Golden State Warriors is going to do anything for his.
100%, dude.
I don't know that that's going to do anything.
A young point guard playing in those circumstances, the next time he makes the playoffs, he's not going to have those same level of jitters, man. It's just, it's super important.
I don't know that that's more valuable than what I might get. We've all seen what 1 or 2 slots in the draft can mean. 1 or 2 slots in the draft can mean you get Kirk Heinrich or you get Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, but that's not where they're picking.
No. It is where they're picking, honestly, because if they make the playoffs, then they can't be picking any higher than 17. If they miss the playoffs, they could go somewhere between 14 and 16.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like Jerry West is fine with that. No, it's Jerry West. Jerry West is fine with that.
I don't. It doesn't matter if it's Billy West. It's 2 to 3 slots, and if the guy is gone, he's gone.
No, I think it's more valuable for the Clippers to get experience with those guys, especially Shai. The thing about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that's so wonderful about him is he plays with a maturity and intelligence. So he's going to actually learn from that playoff experience in a major way. And if they get marquee free agents, they're definitely going to make the playoffs next year. And if they have a point guard who is more veteran because he's seen the playoffs already, that's a huge plus for them.
Yeah, I'm not saying that
a rookie who is almost definitely not going to help them. And if he is, it's because Jerry West is a genius, not because they were relying on the 14th through 17th pick to be something that he's not, especially when the draft is not considered to be particularly deep this year.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there's nothing for Alexander to take away from going and playing 4 games and getting sent home. I'm not saying that there's nothing he can gain from that. But if I'm weighing what's more important, a draft spot or going to get swept, and I only got one guy on my team who I really think is going to be a part of my core, one guy, no.
See, and this is why I disagree. Because a draft spot you need really, really, really high draft picks when either A, there's a lot of talent at the top of the draft, or B, you're not very good at drafting. When you're really good at drafting, like Jerry West is probably the greatest talent evaluator in the history of basketball. When you have that, you're like, I can find talent later in the draft. I'm fine. Like when you, what's his name at the Spurs? The GM, no, GM.
Buford. No, well, no, he's with the Thunder now. Oh my God, his
name is same thing, around. Right? And even what's the name at the Thunder? Like when you have Buford. When you have talent like that in terms of talent evaluation, you forming a winning culture, getting into the playoffs, you're confident that you're going to pick well late, especially when it's not like 100% guaranteed with this way or that way. Guys go a little earlier, guys go a little later. You know what is guaranteed? Playoff experience. That's guaranteed. And you need to get it as much as you can get it when you're on the way up. And the Clippers are definitely 100% on the way up. Everything about that organization is pointing forward. And if they were, one of the best teams in the league in a year, 2 years, nobody would be surprised because of how many great decisions they've made and how much great coaching they have right now, and the way everybody's playing together in that organization. You don't disrupt playing together and start losing on purpose when you have a winning culture.
No, I don't think the question was about trying whether or not the Clippers should be losing on purpose. He said that why are fans blinded by irrelevant.
But did he reference the Clippers?
No, he said the Clippers, but he's not implying.
Well,
and
I'm being specific.
No, you're actually not, because you're not specifically referring to the question that was asked. The question
he said like my Clippers.
No, he said, why are fans blinded by irrelevant playoff appearances? We're not suggesting that the Clippers should lose on purpose. He's asking, why are fans getting enamored with an irrelevant playoff appearance?
But I don't
you're saying it's not irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant.
Right. Okay. So I didn't say that they should lose on purpose. I'm saying that it's that I wouldn't do that. But what I'm saying is them going to the playoffs this year, I do believe. While I won't say it's irrelevant, if I had to pick between them going to the playoffs and getting swept in 4 games and getting the number 14 pick rather than the 17 pick, I'd take the 14 pick.
Yeah, well, that's why you gotcha. Yeah.
I'm just as involved in team building as you. Is that why?
you already done cried in the chat about me talking about your Bulls. So I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it where it is. And you been beat up enough. You got to watch that team every day.
Yeah. See, Mr. 1989 said, "Thank you, Brian," because he can't yell it out, so we can refocus on the question that was asked. Because I don't know, sometimes books start running down the street, and we got to try to get him back because he go down the street.
Mr. Listen, if you're a Clippers fan, be very happy with everything that's happening with your organization. You got some of the smartest, most talented people behind the desk, and you've got a team with a winning culture that ain't costing you no money right now. Let that team get some experience, add some talent in the offseason. That's the best case. You guys are a best case scenario team.
Yeah. I really do think the Clippers are in a good position, though. I don't think to put it like this, I don't think either thing is the end of the world.
Right. And by the way, if Kevin Durant leaves the Warriors, the West is wide open.
Yeah. I would say so, because the Warriors become very beatable at that point. Mm-hmm. They're still a really good team.
For sure.
They're not scary like they were before.
Right.
All right. Pete told my main man, PT. What's happening, Pete? He says, which NBA players have been the biggest surprise for you this season, and which have been the most disappointing? Pick 3 in each category. So, you can go first. I know you did you did your research there and you checked.
So let me see. The most I say the big one of the biggest surprises is definitely Nurkic. That guy's playing out of his mind.
Yusuf.
Yeah. Like what he's done in that turnaround has been pretty incredible. I would actually say Paul George. Paul George is a surprise player because, a lot of people did not have him ever being an MVP candidate. And I think part of the reason the Lakers missed out on him is because he was unilaterally discussed as a third-tier star, not even a second-tier star.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's elevated to the level of second. No, he's second tier because he's not as good as Giannis and Kevin Durant. But he is in that, the top of the second tier, which is still excellent. He can be the best player on your team, and you guys can have a real go at it. So congrats to him. That was a really, really amazing turnaround for him. And then the last one would be Brook Lopez. And it's really just the level that Brook Lopez has reached in terms of playing his role.
Mm-hmm.
Brook Lopez, it looks insane for LA not to have him right now.
Yeah, because he definitely could be playing the same kind of way that he's playing.
He's literally if they were just as smart as Milwaukee, it's almost like you could trade places, right?
Yeah. They could run the same way that they're running. They could do the same types of things.
Correct. What I tried to stay away from on this list was too many young players who are expected to get better. So guys like
so this is now we're talking about disappointing players.
Well, I'm talking about even for the surprising players. Okay. I'm not surprised by D'Angelo Russell. He showed flashes. I'm not surprised by De'Aaron Fox, rookie point guard. We'll see what happens. So there's a lot of guys like that I'm not surprised by. Sabonis showed signs growing into his own. But I would say those three players that I named are definitely the ones that were most surprising. Because even best case scenario, I feel like Paul George went over his best case scenario. Nobody saw Brook Lopez coming. Now, in terms of most disappointing players, I would say number one, and this isn't in order, but I'm going to put Ben Simmons on the list. He's a young player, so this isn't like a lifetime sentence for him. But it's just the fact that his game not only didn't grow, but it seems harder for him to help the team. It seems like the better the team gets, the more he's in the way. Literally in the way. You'll see Jimmy Butler or Joel Embiid making a move in the post, and Ben Simmons is under the basket, like it's the 1990s. And it's dude, get him off the court.
He looked disconnected from Xbox Live.
So it's a little disappointing that Ben didn't have a better season, because I really do think that Ben is the difference between the Sixers being a higher seed than what they are, and what they wound up being. I'm gonna throw Jaylen Brown on there too. And with Jaylen Brown, it's not so much his game on the court. He's had flashes, he's had ups and downs, but I do think that he was one of the poutier young guys in that locker room.
Definitely.
As the stories have come out more and more and more, he seems to have been one of the major causes of a chemistry issue in Boston. And I think that and I think the difference between Boston being a 2 or 3 seed and them being what they are now is Jaylen Brown making it easier on Gordon Hayward, because of what I've been saying all year. Is Gordon, if you get Gordon Hayward to be close to what he's supposed to be, then that is a weapon you don't have on Boston. Last year, that going into this year complements your team in a way because of the shooting and just the overall well-rounded game of the basketball intelligence. You guys need to be patient and chill. I've criticized Boston not for their on-the-court gameplay or Kyrie Irving. This is his best year so far as an individual, but because they overreacted to a little on-the-court adversity. And so I think Jaylen Brown is responsible for it. And unlike Jason Tatum, he's not a second-year player. I believe this is third year. And in your third year, you should be growing. You should be growing into what you're supposed to be. You shouldn't be having these kinds of hiccups.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the funny thing is that Jaylen Brown is actually, I think he just got appointed the head of, or one of the heads of Players Association.
Well, he's an intelligent guy.
Yeah, he is.
What's happening specifically in your locker room doesn't necessarily affect how well you'll do in other things. Just ask Derek Fisher, right? How well you do in terms of Players Association and stuff like that. So. But yeah, I think he'll grow out of it too, which is part of the reason I'm putting him on this list. I don't think this is something he'll be for his entire career. And in that sense, and I think he's better than that. I think he's smarter than that. and you know, it was a fail for him, and he hurt his team. So these are two guys that hurt their teams, and they're both playoff teams. Now, what I would love to do is put John Wall third on this list because he was
Oh my God, boy, you gonna find a, you know, John Wall people gonna come looking for you.
But I'm not.
They gonna come looking for you.
I'm not gonna put him on this list. I'm gonna have to put the one and only LeBron James. LeBron James. He's the most disappointing player. I don't think anybody saw them missing the playoffs, particularly when the last slot in the playoffs was pretty gettable. The Lakers aren't even close. The Lakers aren't even close to getting in the playoffs. So yeah, he missed 18 games. But every LeBron discussion we've had so far, I felt that if he played better defense, if he bought into Luke Walton's scheme and was like helping Luke coach up those young players, I thought this Laker team was good enough to be better than what they were. And instead, I thought LeBron brought a new level of toxicity to the Los Angeles Lakers culture that despite the terrible losing that they've had before, we haven't seen it be this bad in a long time. It's particularly on the court, in the locker room, with players that, quite frankly, are better than people have given them credit for being. Brandon Ingram is a little better than people give him credit for being. Lonzo Ball's an excellent defender, atrocious free throw shooter. He's got to fix that part of his game. But, you know, his defense, his playmaking, his shooting was inconsistent, but it's not like he's the worst three-point shooter in the league or anything like that. You know, if the Boston Celtics can survive Marcus Smart from the three-point line, and the Oklahoma City Thunder could survive pre-All-Star break Russell Westbrook from the three-point line, Lakers definitely could have survived Lonzo Ball from the three-point line. And they just made that as bad as it could be. And I think a lot of that was LeBron going in there and being an industry rather than being a teammate. And I thought he handled the LA situation extremely poorly as a basketball player.
Well, I absolutely appreciate your list. I really do. And the thoroughness of it was really even more impressive. Warm to my heart.
You sound like a kid who ain't do his homework.
What? I got it. I got him right here, man.
I want extra time so you can get your list.
I already got it, man.
Let's hear it. Who you got?
Let's do the surprises first, right? Mitchell Robinson. There is no way in the world that I thought Mitchell Robinson would be able to make the impact that he's making on the floor this quick.
That's because you don't pay attention. I told you at the beginning of the year, I won't be surprised if he's the second best big man out this draft, which he is. I told you that.
I don't recall that.
I know. You don't pay attention?
No, because you probably
told you he's a monster.
You probably didn't say it. That's probably why.
It's on YouTube. Sid Nation, hold me up. Find the footage.
I was probably not there for that particular episode. That was probably Kushmir in the dark. So I don't know who that was. But yes, I mean and he's just scraping the surface of what he can be as a rim runner, rim protector. And and we're not talking about just rim protection. You know, this dude has more block shots on 3-point attempts than anybody in the NBA this year. Like the ground that he's covering is just insane. It's really insane. And the rebound athleticism is just nuts. Next, and I'm not going to put this in order. Like, so we'll throw it out of order. But next I have Pascal Siakam. I mean, you could see last year that he was transitioning towards becoming a good player, a contributor, a consistent contributor. But I don't think anybody thought we were looking at the jump that he's had this year. I mean, his scoring average has more than doubled. His rebounds have almost doubled. He's gone up literally in every single statistical category. He went from a 22% three-point shooter to a 36% three-point shooter while taking more shots. And the dude has just been fantastic. He's 24 years old. I'm surprised that he became this just from last year. And then the other person that I am most surprised at, and I'm very happy to say this.
Oh, here we go.
Derrick Rose. As much as I love Derrick, and he's my favorite player, there was nothing that I saw last year that would have made me believe that he was about to average 18 points a game.
So you doubted Derek?
There was no reason for me to think he's about to drop 18 a game and become like the odds-on favorite to win the sixth man. There's nothing that made me think that. Now his 3-point shooting has fallen miserably over the past like month. Like literally, Derek has made 1 3 since Derek has made 1 3-point shot since January 15th. That's bad. That's bad. So his free throw shooting has dropped off a lot, but he's still scoring.
And you said odds on favorite, so you definitely have him the odds on favorite over Lou Williams.
He actually is the odds on favorite. If you check odds for six man, he's leading.
Do you think that's right? If we have him over Lou Williams?
You know what? I'd have to check. I'd have to check and see how many to make sure that Lou has started, how many games he started this year.
No, he's a bench player. He qualifies.
Yeah, I know he's a bench player. I know he qualifies, but I'd have to look and see because Lou, he's actually come off the bench in every single game. 20 points, 2.9 rebounds, 5.3 assists. Derek's shooting better.
And his team's in the playoffs.
Yeah, but I don't know if that
it matters because he's a major region and one of the most clutch players in the league.
I definitely think it's
at the end of a lot of games.
I definitely think it's close, but Derek is too, though. Derek has won games, at the end. But I think it's close.
Lou,
I don't know. I think it's close. I think it's definitely close. If Lou Williams were to win, you can't cry foul. I mean, he's averaging 20 points a game off the bench.
You know why I think Lou might steal it from Derek?
Why is that?
Because this would be historic for a guy to win it 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, like you said, it's close from an on paper kind of thing. I think Lou deserves it on the basis of when these awards are close, the person with the winning record, it leans in their direction. And in the case of a clutch shooter, it leans even more in their direction. I think Lou does deserve it over Derek, not by a lot. I do think Derek deserves it. I think if Derek wins it, the story is in his favor.
Well, it wouldn't be the third time in a row. He won it last year.
It'll be the third time.
The third time. Yeah.
It'll be the third time. Yeah. But yeah, I think he'd be the first guy to win it 3 times.
No, Jamal Crawford won it 3 times.
He won it 3 times? Oh, so he's trying to get into that conversation.
Yeah.
And he should be. I think he should be in that conversation.
It's a Clipper thing. Even though one of the times Jamal Crawford won it, he was with the Hawks.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think Lou deserves this year, to be honest, because he was instrumental in their success and they've had more success than us.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I definitely could not, argue and go, oh my God, they robbed Derek. I mean, I definitely couldn't say that. I mean, Lou Williams has been great off the bench. And as a matter of fact, Rose has started some games this year. Lou Williams has not.
Oh, my man, Greedy Rashid, the real 2K Insider, has some wonderful stats for us. Derrick Rose is 18-4 in 51 games on a team that's missing the playoffs. Lou Williams is 20-5 in 63 games on a team that is making the playoffs.
That's true. I mean, but then you also have to look at things like field goal percentage, free throw percentage, because the 6 man, I don't think you judge that on the same level that you would judge like the MVP. I think Rookie of the Year and 6 man are awards that you don't necessarily factor in team success. So,
again, that's a blind across the board statement. But I'm saying when the players themselves add specificity, you should. So Lou Williams has been big for them in clutch moments regularly. And that is part of the reason they have won. If he was a guy just coming in and putting up numbers off the bench, it would be different. If he was getting sat down at the end of games for some reason, like if he was, a guy who shot bad free throws, so they were sitting him, or if he was, his defense was a liability, so they were sitting him, that would be different. But when a guy's in fourth quarters causing them to win games, that should factor into his case.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I feel like it's, like I said, it's close. And I do think that Rose's story could definitely help him. But like I said, if Lou Williams won 6 man, I mean, who's going? I mean, you're insane to argue that. But if Rose won, I don't think it's a travesty either.
No, it would be a travesty. Although, when you look at games played too, that'd be tough. That'd be tough.
Yeah, games played definitely matters. I mean, because Rose has sat for sure to make sure that he can continue to do what he's doing. So. For sure. All right, so let's go to my most disappointing players. And of course, the names get bigger here because where disappointment, there had to be expectations. Draymond Green is on my list. The Warriors' success has somewhat hidden the fact that Draymond Green's having a pissy year. I mean, like, it's not good. It's not good at all. And not to mention that, and he's still talking a lot.
Yeah. I actually really, really agree with that. The only thing is Draymond has been falling off for a bit. So it doesn't surprise me. That's why it's not disappointing, because I didn't expect him to like bounce back and get better. He's been shooting with that backpack on his back for a little while.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think he's a good pick though. And, if the Warriors don't win, Draymond's decline is the number one reason.
Yeah, it's because it's gotten to the point where now he's the weak link on the floor. You know, it's gotten to that point where he's now the weak link on the floor. And I think he feels that, and that's why he's probably talking more, because that's just what his personality is. So some of the people on my most disappointing list are people who not just they haven't just been disappointing as in regards to their play and their production. It's also they're disappointing in the way they've handled things on their team. Not all three of them are that way, but two of them are, right? And Draymond is one of them. My next person is Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is having a good year, right? You know, all of these players that we're talking about disappointing, they're all probably having good years, right? That's just it is what it is. All of Ben Simmons' numbers, just about most of them, are either what they were as a rookie or a little bit better. But I think that's the problem, because he set such a standard for himself, and we look at him and we know that he has such talent and potential, and we expect more. We expect more of a jump, but we're still looking at a guy with a glaring deficiency as an outside shooter. And we're talking about a dude who, like, literally, you're a point guard in the NBA and you have played 148 games and you have never made a three-pointer in the NBA.
Yeah, and what the report that I read recently was that he and Embiid don't get along, and that he refuses to shoot, and the only time he shoots is to prove why he shouldn't shoot, to spite Embiid. So when he throws up those bricks, it's to be like, see, now stop bothering me about shooting. Which is, as a point guard, the point guard big man relationship is extremely important, and that is not great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that. I know that to me that sounds like a way to hide behind something that you can't do, and that you have some sort of deficiency before, so you look for a way to kind of like blame somebody or scapegoat out. So if he is saying that, or if that's being banded around, I don't think that's the true reason. I think the true reason is the fact that he seems like a very prideful guy, period. And you suck at this part of the game, and you're not used to sucking at anything, because everything you've always done, you're always great at it. And this particular part of the game, you suck at it. So you try to stay away from it. And it's holding your team back. It's holding you back in terms of your overall development. And also the fact that you're a 60% free throw shooter. Yeah, that's up from 56% last year, but it's well below where you need to be. And you're Ben Simmons. You're the type of talent that could be arguably the best player in the NBA. He could legit. He has the skill set, size combination, that he could arguably be the best player in the NBA, like in the next 2 years. He could be that, but he's not moving in that direction. If you're in your second season in the NBA and you look almost as if you've plateaued, that ain't good. And to me, that's disappointing.
Yeah. And I think the thing with Ben that's really crazy is, number one, with the three-pointer, same thing with a lot of these guys, all he needs is a corner three. He just needs to go to the opposite side when Embiid's in the post, and that spreads the floor just fine. If they can't leave you open in the corner, you're fine. He doesn't need to learn to shoot. Because he's 6'10", he doesn't need a pull-up jumper, right? Like Lonzo Ball, he needs a jumper. You know, Ben Simmons doesn't need a jumper because he's 6'10". You can't concede the lane to him. He's too big, right? It's like Giannis. Giannis, I mean, he's shooting better recently, but Giannis doesn't need to shoot because you can't concede the lane. He actually draws the defense. Whereas Lonzo Ball going up against a big man in the paint is not a favorable proposition. The key with Lonzo and Ben is they're so bad at free throw shooting. Now, Lonzo's like historically bad. But Ben is bad, and he's like LeBron. He's worse in the fourth quarter, and worse than the numbers in the fourth quarter is his attitude about driving to the basket. That's the problem. And when teams know you don't want to go to the line, you know what I mean? They know you can't shoot. And what I'm seeing a lot from him is him drifting and closing the court up. And that's why I picked him. You know, because it's not just the weaknesses in his game; it's his reaction to it.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't have right now the kind of attitude to maximize his talent. To me, he has an attitude of that. It seems to be like kind of resistant to advancement, and I have no choice but to think that because you're a point guard and everybody's screaming to you about developing certain parts of your game. And it doesn't appear as though there's any work being done. I mean, because we spent a lot of time laughing at Markelle Fultz's free throw shot motion, but Ben Simmons looks like he's pulling the string on a cannon. So, I mean, I don't know. It's what it is. But the other person on my list for most disappointing is LeBron James.
Man, I'm so glad I went first.
LeBron is having a LeBron year. The thing about LeBron is that LeBron can do what he's doing now literally in his sleep. Like he's that good. He's that good. 27-7, 27-8. LeBron can literally just walk out there. He's that good. He is. I think him, Shaq, and probably Wilt Chamberlain are probably the three players maybe in history who can put up ridiculous numbers with what looks like the least amount of effort. You know, and so
I throw Anthony Davis in there too.
It don't even look as effortless for him to me, as those guys to me. But so you can look at LeBron's numbers and go, how in the world can you say he's disappointed? How can somebody be disappointed and they threatening a triple-double every night and they how can he be disappointing? You can be disappointing because you're LeBron James and your expectations are different than everybody else's. We know you do this 27-8. We know you do that. We know you are unstoppable in transition. We know you have great, vision, and we know you're an outstanding rebounder and all these different things. But what we also know is that your leadership qualities sometimes suffer in tough situations. And this year, you were at your worst, I would say, almost from a leadership standpoint. I think you were at your worst. And because of that, perhaps if you had an average 32-9 and 8, as opposed to your normal 27-8 and 8, then maybe I would be like, okay, well,
Well, honestly, I think the issue was partially the defense, man. Like,
I didn't even get to that part.
Yeah,
the effort.
There's got to be a limit.
But
there's got to be a limit to how bad you are in defense.
But to me, I think that's part of the leadership, right? Because at some point with these young guys, what LeBron needed to do was to stop barking and just play. And just play exactly the way you're yelling at them to play. Stop standing out here and missing rotations, not stepping up on guys as they penetrate the lane. All that Mario Chalmers style leadership that you used to do, the same thing's not going to work with everybody. And these guys shut down on you.
Well, see, here's the thing. I think that's an unfair criticism to the young players. Brandon Ingram had his best stretch after the All-Star break. Kyle Kuzma was up and down, but not visibly.
But his effort was
quitting on
always there. When I say shut down, I don't mean they shut down from an activity standpoint or play. I mean, I feel like they shut down on looking at him as if he was the leader and looking at him in a way that you would expect.
See, I think that a little bit lets him off the hook. It isn't one thing, and we agree on this, but I just want to highlight it. When your defense is as bad as his is, and when you walk up the court too much, when you walk around on the court too much, individually you are hurting your team when you're doing that. You know what I'm saying? One of the things, and Russell Westbrook has already gotten credit for this, but he is literally feeding Paul George. Like he's trying to get him the MVP. When you have younger players, particularly, it's a flaw in the Lakers scheme that they didn't surround him with shooters. But he signed off on it, so I don't give him a break for that because he was like, yeah, no shooting, right? So whatever, you know, the GM. But the thing is, Brandon Ingram is much better with the ball in his hands. You have to concede and put the ball in his hand. It feels like the only reason he let Ingram play is because he was hurt, right? He was coming off an injury, so he couldn't beat LeBron James for 40 minutes a game anymore. And Ingram looked fantastic. And that's what I was saying from the beginning of the year, really for years, is LeBron James is better with role players. He's not great with superstars because he doesn't let people cook. People look at Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving was an offensive role player like Lou Williams, right? He was like Lou Williams on steroids. He didn't get to be a decision maker on the court, right? So LeBron fired him off like a gun. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about also decision making, getting into the flow, controlling the game. LeBron needs to release control of the game to a player like Brandon Ingram, particularly to either raise his value on the team so you can trade him, or to make him a better complementary piece as you age. And he didn't do either one. Yeah, in addition to playing no D.
I think that he did give a little bit more freedom to like I think Dwayne Wade and Kyrie Irving are the guys who had an opportunity to do what they do. But I think those are the only two guys that he's ever played with who had a chance to do what they do.
Well, Kyrie will tell you he didn't get a chance to play point guard.
Kyrie ain't playing point guard now either. Kyrie is
his assists are way up.
They're up, but then he's still a scoring point guard. That's what he is.
I think people are being a little hard on Kyrie's individual play because there's a lot of times where Kyrie is letting the young guys play.
I mean, I'm not saying it as like a down or a
slight. No, Kyrie. Let me say this. I heavily criticized Kyrie for not being a point guard, even last year. This year, I think that was a massive improvement in his game. I think he played a lot more like a point guard this year. I don't think he didn't even have that opportunity when he was playing with LeBron James. With LeBron James, he felt like a one-trick pony, and he really was.
Well, I mean, I think that just is something that happens anytime you play with a great player. I mean, shoot, B.J. Armstrong and John Paxson didn't get a chance to play. They're not Kyrie Irving, of course, but they didn't get a chance to play traditional point guard either. If you play with Mike, you didn't play traditional point guard. It just didn't.
Well, I mean, Scotty got a chance to be a great playmaker.
He got a chance to be the point forward style guy, but Scotty wasn't shooting as much as Mike. You know what I'm saying? So
it's not his game.
Right. It's not his game. It's not his game.
But Kyrie's game is to be more of a decision maker. And my point is, with Lonzo and Ingram, both of those guys are decision makers. And Ingram shows some real signs. Like he looks like he could be a really good player, and I think he was more hurt by LeBron James' presence than helped by it. And I think that's the main.
I don't think that's incorrect. I do think that Ingram doesn't fit with LeBron. That's for sure. All right,
I think he can.
Yeah, I don't think
it's not ideal, but I think he can, especially as LeBron ages.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. So I will. I mean, he's a talented guy, so I think that there's a way. Because where there's talent, there's always a way, but we'll see. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap it right there. We got a couple of them that are going to spill over into next week. Those last two questions were pretty good and pretty strong, so we're able to kind of riff on those a little bit longer. I feel like I'm gonna tell y'all, I was beaten down today, and it was a fight to get this show in this evening. So I appreciate everybody who came through to watch and all of that and dig what we were throwing out. So hoping that everybody enjoyed it. They go ahead and share the video and all of that sort of thing, and be on the lookout. If you missed any part of the show, as usual, we'll cut it up and throw it out there in segments for the rest of the week.
I think you meant to say, Books, thank you for saving my day.
You
picked me up tonight when I was down.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, it's faster if you just.
As a matter of fact, I am now feeling irregular, and I think that is probably thanks to you. You have stopped up my bowels. That is what has happened. So I appreciate everybody as usual. Y'all have a good one. God bless and peace.